Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Mosaic Teens Online. And this week we're continuing the series asking the question, what is? And we're asking the question, what is Advent? So let's get into it. Now, before this video, how many of you have heard of Advent before? Now, how many of you knew that we are in the season of Advent right now? In its basic, most simplest form, Advent is the season leading up to Christmas. That is how it is celebrated today. And Advent comes from the Latin word adventus, which is the translation of the Greek word parousia, which ultimately its definition means the arrival or the presence. And so since Christmas is the holiday we celebrate when Jesus Christ arrived and came to earth as a baby, Advent is looking forward to the arrival of the Messiah, to the arrival of Jesus Christ on earth. And what's really interesting, and is actually a preview for this coming Sunday's sermon, is that both Mary and Joseph have a dream where an angel visits them and tells them that their son shall be called Emmanuel, that Jesus will be called Emmanuel, and Emmanuel literally means God with us. And so while Advent is looking forward to the arrival of this baby, it's also looking forward to God's presence with us, to Jesus Christ, the divine God, coming down to earth as a baby. Now, I know what you're thinking. This already happened hundreds and thousands of years ago. This already happened. So why are we still looking forward to Jesus coming down as a baby when it already happened? Well, in order to understand this, we actually have to take a quick history lesson. And I know what you're thinking. More history classes on my computer. I get it. But I promise you this one is actually really interesting and leads to a lot of really important discussion. And so why do we still celebrate Advent today? One, it is to affirm the reality of Jesus Christ coming to earth as a baby. And two, it is to look forward to when he will come again. So in order to understand this, we have to go back in history to the first written recorded history of Advent, which comes from the 4th century AD, because, after death, Jesus had to come for 400 anyway. And from the history that we have written, it shows that the season and holiday of Advent was established in order to combat a heresy of that time. Another quick side note. Do any of you know why Christmas is celebrated on December 25th? I know many of you might not know this, but December 25th is not actually the day Jesus was born. We don't know the exact day Jesus was born. Historians believe most likely it was in the middle of the summer sometime. But the reason why it was chosen to be celebrated on December 25th was because of the winter solstice. Now, the winter solstice is the darkest day of the year, and it was chosen to celebrate the birth of Christ then because he is the light coming to our world, that he is the light coming to forgive us of our sins, of our darkness. And so they said, let's celebrate Jesus' birth on December 25th. Now, this idea eventually turned into a heresy. A heresy, if you don't know, is a belief that is directly opposed to Christian tradition, to the scriptures. And so there was a heresy that was developed that because it was celebrated that Jesus was the light coming to the world, that Jesus merely came spiritually, that he came as light. It was the spiritual idea that Jesus came, but he never physically came as a baby. Now, as any of you who have watched our videos before know, it is vital that Jesus came physically as a human in order to be able to die on the cross and pay the penalty for our sins. This is the only way forgiveness could truly come. And so in order to combat this heresy, to fight against this heresy, the season of Advent was established. Because again, remember, Advent is the celebrating of the arrival. So in order to fight against a merely spiritual idea of Jesus, it was saying we are celebrating the physical arrival of Jesus as a baby here on earth. And so it's okay to celebrate Christmas on December 25th. It's not a heresy to do that, but that's why it's important to have Advent as that constant reminder that when we celebrate Christmas, we are celebrating the coming of the baby Jesus, that Jesus was fully God and fully man. And he lived a real physical, tangible life here on earth. So that's the first part of Advent. That Advent reminds us of the reality of Jesus Christ coming down as a baby and living here on earth. But the second reason why we celebrate Advent is to look forward to the day when he comes again, to Jesus' second coming. Remember those Latin and Greek words we talked about earlier, Adventus and Parousia? These are the same words that are used to talk about Jesus' second coming in the book of Revelation and talked about throughout the scriptures, that Jesus will return again. And so historically, Advent was 4 weeks. The first 2 weeks, Advent looked forward to the day when Jesus would return again. They weren't looking at Jesus' physical birth. They knew that had already happened. They affirmed that. And so they were taking 2 weeks to focus and remember and hope for the day when Jesus will come again. And so the final 2 weeks, the church celebrated in remembrance the day when Jesus came physically here to earth. And so the season of Advent and Christmas is not just about Jesus being born in a manger. It is, but it's about everything from that to the day when Jesus comes again. And while in many churches and denominations today, we focus solely on the day when Jesus was in a manger during the season of Advent, all of these sermons and all of this season, we should also be looking forward to when Jesus comes, to be hoping and longing for the day when he returns, to know that life that is happening right now might be hard, might be difficult. Maybe it is joyous and good for you, and that's awesome. But either way, whether life is good or bad for us right now, we are hoping for the day when Christ returns and restores and redeems all things. So my question for you guys this week is, if you have celebrated Advent before, what things do you do to celebrate? Do you have a calendar? Do you eat certain foods? Do you not eat certain foods? Whatever it might be, let me know. How do you guys celebrate Advent? Have a great week.